Welcome aboard! We will be your guides during this magical journey into the movies. It's the perfect job for us because we love the movies. It's showtime! Ready when you are, CB!
Action!
Welcome to Monoreel Radio, episode number 384. I'm Sean.
And I'm Jackie.
And we're here this week to review and discuss the Cheetah Girls. In fact, the next 3 weeks are going to be all cheetah all the time. Now, I'm sure a lot of people are wondering, why now for Cheetah Girls, right?
Why the marathon?
I think there's a couple of different explanations for this. The first being that the second film in the series, the one we're going to talk about next week, it has a big anniversary coming up, so that kind of got our wheels turning. But the fact of the matter is, Cheetah Girls is one of the most revered, beloved series just across the grand scope of DCOM, right? We've never seen it, we've never talked about it, so we figured now is a good time, especially because they do have a fourth film coming out in the near future.
What I hadn't realized until I really started deep diving and doing my homework was that this was really the one that kicked it off as far as the DCOM musical goes.
Yeah.
Because as you said, it's the 20th anniversary of the second one, but we weren't going to start with that one. So this is 2003. It predates High School Musical. It predates Lizzie McGuire. It predates Hannah Montana. In fact, just to give you an idea of how big they were, because I remember the hype for sure, but I was already kind of past the target demo for this. But this was kind of mind-blowing to me. Miley, as Hannah Montana, opened for the Cheetah Girls when they toured.
Huh.
So that kind of gave me the perspective of how big they really were. I think a lot of it, too, this was something that was interesting to learn. They had a lot of hype behind them from the jump, because Whitney Houston actually produced this.
Right.
So her co-producer is Deborah Martin Chase. They had done Cinderella together for Disney, the Brandy Whitney Houston one, which we love. So this wasn't their first foray into working with Disney, but they had a really lasting partnership. And Deborah Martin Chase has also gone on to do, well, before this, it was Princess Diaries. She did 1 and 2. She did Lemonade Mouth. And not for Disney, but equally as big and sort of in this realm of the, the girl power realm. She did Sisterhood of the Traveling Pants. So hugely successful producing team behind them. So it's only natural that they blew up the way that they did. And I think it came at a time where this was sort of needed because the Spice Girls had broken up. In the early 90s, you had TLC, you had Salt and Peppa, but they had kind of like tapered off by this point. Like there weren't really girl groups anymore. They had tried to push them, but it was all about Britney and Christina as solo artists during this time. So there was definitely a void that was being filled here.
Well, does this movie feel like something that came out in 2003? Do the songs feel dated at this point? And does the film have enough substance where it really needed to spawn 3 sequels?
You're also forgetting a very important question. Are you ready for some cheetah chatter?
That, on top of many other things, good Lord, is what we are here to discuss today.
This episode is sponsored by Where in the Park. Our friends at Where in the Park make seek and find card games designed to play in the theme parks and turn your day into an interactive adventure. Game packs come with a deck of cards, each with an image on it that is hidden somewhere in the theming of the park, helping you to discover details you've probably walked past 100 times. Where in the Park game packs will spark curiosity, encourage connection, and make every visit to the parks even more memorable. Visit monoreelradio.com and click on our affiliate link to purchase your game packs at a discount.
Galleria, Chanel, Aqua, and Dorinda are the Cheetah Girls. They are preparing for the high school talent show, which Galleria and Chanel want for fortune and fame. Galleria's obsession with the talent show auditions has her distracted, flaking on her chores, and causing friction with her mother, Dorothea, who wants her focusing on real life over fantasies. Meanwhile, Chanel feels ignored by her mom, who only wants to spend time with her Parisian boyfriend. The next day at school, the girls perform their song Cinderella and not only get into the talent show, but also catch the eye of Jackal Johnson, a previous talent show winner, who is a major record producer, though Dorothea isn't as enthused as she simply sees the Cheetah Girls as a hobby. While Galleria bickers with her mother, Chanel is upset with hers when the idea of moving to Paris is floated by her. Galleria's father convinces her mother to allow the girls to call Jackal and take a meeting. However, Chanel voices displeasure with Galleria after Galleria said that she was the founder of the Cheetah Girls. Meanwhile, we see that Dorinda works at a boys and girls center for credit hours to pay for her dance lessons, though she hides this from the other girls. The next day, the girls meet with Jackal, and he wants the girls to record a demo within a week, coincidentally on the same day as the talent show. Dorothea also refuses to let the girls sign anything before her attorney can review the paperwork. At school, Galleria begins to think who she is, turning off all of the kids, including Aqua and Doe. Chanel refuses to confront her as she is intimidated by her. Galleria continues to get a poor reputation as a diva after she insults their music teacher as well as Doe, who she says needs a fashion makeover. Aqua again tells Chanel that she should be confronting Galleria. Meanwhile, Doe is invited to tour with the Gold Medal Crew dance group, for which she would be paid, but needs her parents to co-sign the contract. Meanwhile, Chanel takes her mother's credit card and goes on a shopping spree after learning that her mother is considering listing their apartment to facilitate a move to Paris. She drops in at Doe's apartment building to learn that Doe is secretly a foster child who lives in the superintendent's office in the apartment building. She fears that if the truth gets out, Galleria would kick her out of the Cheetah Girls. Doe is surprised when Chanel gives her an outfit to wear, and Chanel is conflicted when she learns of the Gold Medal Crew offer. That night, Chanel goes to Galleria's, where Dorothea tells them that they can go to Jackal's studio alone. Chanel, initially excited, gets upset when Galleria shows her a CD cover that she had designed, where Galleria is front and center and the other girls are in the background. She also tells Galleria about Doe, and the girls agree that Doe needs this opportunity. She needs the money as well as true friends. At Jackal's studio, his marketing team wants the girls to wear animal masks and have new identities. He wants the girls to lip sync under the masks, which Galleria does not want to do. He also wants to rename them Global Get Down and record songs that are written for them, so the girls cannot write their own music. The girls get upset with Galleria, who won't allow them to make a group decision as she only thinks about herself, and she does not want to do any of this now. After telling her that they don't trust her anymore, Galleria decides to quit and let the other three take the deal. Jackal tells the girls that he can easily replace Galleria, and the girls want time to consider the offer. With their futures hanging in the balance, Galleria goes to her mom for support. Chanel and her mom fight briefly. Doe decides to go on tour, and Aqua can't hail a taxi cab. At school, Galleria that's the crescendo of that scene.
It's her character arc. Let's not dismiss it.
Yeah. At school, Galleria tells Derek, a rival classmate, who is also a love interest, about what happened with Jackal. She also sees Global Get Down is being marketed and assumes that the other girls left her to take the deal, and as she's walking her dog, Toto, she sees this up in a window at a record store. Well, she gets so upset that Toto gets loose and runs away, falling into an open manhole in the sidewalk, which required the attention of the police, fire department, Con Edison, and a local television news team, causing a traffic jam that is broadcast on television during the talent show. Meanwhile, Derek's group, Sonic Chaos, performs as the Cheetah Girls reunite to help Toto after seeing the news of Toto being trapped. To save him, Con Edison cuts the power, meaning that the talent show has no power, nothing in the vicinity has power, and Toto, trapped, will not move. He needs to be called to, so the Cheetah Girls come together and they sing to Toto, who emerges from the ground. Derek arrives and tells Galleria that she was right to turn her back on Jackal, but convinces her to talk to the Cheetah Girls. They break out into song with Derek playing guitar, and Jackal sees it on television and realizes that he made a mistake. Derek kisses Galleria, who learns that the Cheetah Girls did not take the global Get Down deal. Doe turns down the gold medal crew offer as the Cheetah Girls win the talent show and turn down Jackal Johnson's latest offer. So they're going to do it on their own. Okay. It's a lot. It is a more involved plot, admittedly, than I thought it was going to be sitting to watch this for the first time.
Agreed. One of the things that I forgot to mention at the top of the show, and I think that this would maybe fill in a lot of holes for us, this was based on a book.
Right.
So again, the built-in fan base, it's easy to see where this just exploded. Especially, I think that had to do with how this looks stylistically. What did you think of this music video style opening? Because tonally, this fits with what's going on in pop culture at the time. Like, personally, I can't get enough. I grew up watching TRL. I could not get enough of the late 90s, early 2000s music videos. So it definitely fits that style. But for DCOMs, this is predating, the thing that everybody sort of rags on when it comes to these musicals, where the characters just sort of burst out into song and they're not acknowledging that the camera's there. They're just singing to themselves. So what did you think about this choice?
I found it a bit jarring. Here's the thing. If I'm sitting to watch a musical, I know that characters are just going to break out into song, whether it's cheesy or not. And that's not exclusive to DCOMs. That's literally any musical that ever existed, right? The thing is, like, using Lemonade Mouth as a fair comparable, the movie starts with them already being famous, and then you learn the backstory of it. So I know that you're not necessarily going to do that here. Now, meanwhile, this came out years before Lemonade Mouth, right? You're not necessarily going to do the exact same thing twice, because then one film feels like a rehash of the other. But I would tolerate breaking out into random song easier than what I believe is a very clunky, jarring introduction where the movie starts on a music video. I know I'm watching a movie. I don't need you to tell me that I'm watching a movie. But that's kind of how this feels when you're starting with a music video. I understand why they did it. To your point, TRL was a big thing. But honestly, when the movie started, I immediately had to go and do research. I pulled my phone out halfway through the song going, wait, was this a television show first and they decided to make a movie? Because they feel like these characters are already established. Like, we're already supposed to know who they are. And I understand that it was a book previously, and the books were popular, but so was Jurassic Park. And you still established characters. You know what I'm saying? Like, The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo is a book series. The Hobbit, book series. But you still have to establish characters. They sort of seemed like they jumped to the end when they started this movie, and that is what, to me, kind of took me out of it from the start.
I would agree with that, because it seems like they're performing at a children's birthday party, or if not a birthday party, some sort of community event. So I would have liked to see a little bit more about how they're established as sort of a local group. And they're gaining notoriety.
Right.
So I think what would have helped, because it is shot this way, was maybe if they had intercut it with, like sort of a through the years montage for each of the characters. It would have helped us get to know them a little bit more, being that they've not had any dialogue yet. And the only real way we're getting to know them is through their wardrobe, and who's singing the most, who's sort of the leader. So I think that would have gone a long way. Like if they had showed that Dorinda has been a dancer her entire life, like give us, and Sabrina Bryant was a dancer, like we'll talk about the cast later on, but she, her earliest jobs were in some of Christina Aguilera's music videos. And that's how she landed this, because she was very established as a dancer at this point. So I'm sure there's like recital footage of her somewhere that they could have peppered in. Raven Simone, she's been a child actress her entire life. She was famous at 5 years old from the Cosby Show, like there's got to be, there could have been audition tapes for her. Like you could have intercut those and it would have lent to the music video style instead of just this awkward performance where they're breaking the fourth wall, but then sometimes we flip back into the film because we see the kids interacting with them. It's just a very, very weird edit. And I think it also does a disservice to the cinematography, which is very cool. Maybe not like the fisheye lens and them looking directly into the camera, but this is supposed to showcase the dancing, and the way that they're doing all of these quick edits and they're not shooting it wide enough to showcase the dancing either. It's just kind of really muddied and a weird way to start this off. However, the Together We Can lyrics, it basically sets up the entire thesis of this film. So to your point, I guess that's why they didn't do the lemonade mouth thing of showing the peak of fame first and then breaking down how they got there.
I think, too, we do have to give this film a little bit of grace for some of the clunky decisions that I think get made specifically with the musical numbers, because to the point you brought up earlier, this was the first to do it. It's easy now with all of these other DCOM musicals to sit there and say, yeah, well, this one did it the right way, and this one did it this way, and this one... But they had to start somewhere. They hadn't done it before, so this really was groundbreaking for what it is. And if you think about the DCOMs that have come out in the years since then, for this one to lay the groundwork, I mean, I think that you do have to give it a little bit of grace. I think that we can forgive a little bit of that in regards to the musical performances, at least.
Well, not only that, but this is a multicultural film. They're definitely trying to make it feel more urban. So I don't necessarily fault the stylistic choice in that regard, but just for the character development in the very beginning, we don't really get it until this really clunky shoe gag where Aqua's heel gets stuck between the boards. And that really doesn't do anything to set up Aqua. It more sets up Galleria because she's being really pushy. She doesn't care what's happening to her friend. It's the show must go on.
Yeah. So, all right, let's get into the actual film, though. Let's move forward here. What's interesting to me is that I understand, to the point you just made, you're going to set Galleria up to be sort of the diva of the group. She who thinks who she is. And it's established that she and Chanel started the Cheetah Girls, that they needed a 4-part harmony, and they brought Doe and Aqua in. What's really interesting is that Aqua and Doe are like backdoor background characters in their own musical group.
Right.
And they don't even realize it. So really, not only are you establishing Galleria as being bossy, which you rush to do because you've already established these characters without introducing them to us, but you kind of introduce that both Chanel and Galleria, they kind of come off as mean girls, quite honestly.
A little bit. I mean, they try to soften it in this scene where they're walking home with, let's promise that no matter what happens, we'll be friends forever. When we get rich and famous, we're going to get a penthouse together. But to your point, they're already leaving the other two in the dust.
Right.
It's not like we're all going to live together. It's just the two of us. This scene, though, man, it sounds like the boom was in a tin can. It is just, this is the worst sound I've seen since that terrible basketball twin movie that we did not too long ago that I can't even remember the name of right now.
Was it Double Teamed?
Double points, double teamed, double crossed, something like that.
Double mint gum, double.
Gosh, the audio is awful there. Like the clearly sound is standing way too far away from that. Like the shot is too wide. I understand we're trying to establish our setting here, but like we've already done that with a couple of B-roll shots. Like we know that this is Toronto serving as Manhattan. I don't know why they didn't ADR this, because it just sounds so terrible. Probably the reason that they couldn't is because these two are talking so fast. And I know that that's part of the Cheetah chatter. I get it. And I think a lot of it is also improv, because they say girl every other word. And I think that's part of too, you know, they're setting it up that they're friends and they're comfortable around each other. But like, my goodness, this was like too much. It's just too much. And it was very, very dialogue heavy. And with all of the wrong reasons too. Like, this is really our first introduction to these characters where they're talking about getting famous, but it's all, and this was very true of the time. It was all about, you know, designer bags, and I've got this famous designer on the phone. Oh no, I can't take your call, I'm too busy. And it's just, there's nothing really to endear us to these characters where they care about the music. And I think that would have gone a long way for Galleria, because the entire time she's the driving force. She wants to not only do things her way, but like she's got the plan. And I feel like it would have kept her a lot more likable throughout the course of this film if she showed more passion for the creative process, for the artistry of it all. And instead it's just, no, A, B, and C, we score the record deal. We get a producer, we score the record deal, and then we get rich and famous. But this is very reflective of the time. It wasn't just Total Request Live where you had all of these artists coming into the studio, and like the MTV VMAs where like fashion and music were constantly colliding. You also had MTV Cribs, and it was our days, you know, for our childhood, it was that lifestyles of the rich and famous thing. And it was these very lavish homes that were being where they'd let you in. Granted, you know, we weren't seeing everything, but like, it very much painted the wrong picture of fame.
It did. And I think like Making the Band was a thing at the time. I think that was another show that was big around the same time.
Right, because NSYNC had sort of tapered off, BSB a little bit. But yeah, they were trying for like the next generation of boy bands, sure.
So it makes sense that, I mean, this is very much a time capsule and in many ways a social commentary on how fame was being viewed, especially when you were sort of, you know, in the industry that you were targeting young talent. So this is how young talent thought. So I think certainly the portrayal of what these characters are they archetypes? Yeah, but they're basically an amalgamation of what the music industry was at the time. It still doesn't help the fact that we don't really know who these characters are, other than, I'm going to be famous and we're going to do it my way. Okay. And the other two are just here. It's almost like an unreliable narrator, because neither one of them are this Chanel and Galleria off the rip. They're not easy to root for.
Agreed. We do get a little bit more character development in these next couple of scenes where we experience their home life, which for me Galleria's is very confusing.
Yeah.
Because clearly mom has had some success. I thought she might have been a singer and like transitioned careers, but I think they say later on that she was a model. And you can see, you know, I will give credit where credit is due. The set design in this movie is absolutely top tier, because that's where you're getting a lot of this character development, is in the background.
Right.
And it's subtle, but it is highlighted in such a way where you are able to pull who these characters are just based in the, you know, it felt real, it felt lived in,
yes.
which was really nice. So you do see there's a couple of, like, it looks like sketches, so you definitely get the idea that she's in this world, she's had some notoriety, and that all comes through where mom is trying to be like overprotective of Galleria, but it doesn't come out in a way like, there's one line where she says, I don't want her making the same mistakes that I did. And there's a great response by Galleria's father, who, through his absolutely terrible put on Italian accent, delivers a really great message where he says, she's not going to make your mistakes. She's going to make her own. And I love that. I love the message that that's sending to kids and parents alike, where it's like, you can't put your kids in a bubble.
Right.
They have to learn and make their own mistakes, regardless of what industry it is that they're choosing.
Yeah.
But in this case, there's so many times where mom just comes off as jealous.
Yeah.
And a little bit of a hater.
Yes.
Instead of being protective.
Yeah. Mom is another dislikable character, because all we're establishing is that she's not being completely supportive, right? And she acknowledges that her daughter is talented. She acknowledges that she may have what it takes, but this is just a hobby. It's, you know what it is? It's the pantsuit princess, right? It's mom is, I'm a successful executive / designer / corporate something because I'm in a pantsuit and I have a flip phone, because that was a big thing at the time. And I have my lawyers and I have my people, and that's nice, that singing thing, but you need a career. We've seen it 100 times. It's tired and it's boring, even by 2003 standards. But the difference is, it's sort of plussed up in that this isn't just, there'll be time for that when you're older. Now think about going to college, and think about your career, and you need to be set up, and you need to, you know, the same sort of pressures that parents put their kids under when college was like, you know, the be all end all. You had to go, you know, in the early to mid 2000s, because you can't get a job without college. Turns out you can. But that was the pressure that they were putting on kids at the time. But it doesn't come off that way at all. It kind of just comes off as mean. Like, it comes off more as put downs. To your point, it feels like there's a jealousy thing.
I think you just hit it right on the head with college specifically. I think they were trying to make a social commentary and write to the belief of the time, which was exactly as you said. College was the be all end all. Go get a good education, go get a good job. And, you know, if you took any other path, you know, that was, you were going rogue. So I think they were trying to write to that, but the girl power message that this film is trying to send, it totally contradicts that.
Right.
Because mom should be supportive of her child's career. And I'm glad they didn't necessarily go with the trope of dad being overprotective and not wanting her to get famous and wanting her to live a quote unquote normal life. But I think in reality, if your kid has a talent and they are very disciplined, you want to support that. If they're practicing, if they're working hard, because that's not Galleria. She's not just like, oh, I'm rehearsing, I'll be fine. She's actively writing music. She is working at her craft. And that completely gets overlooked by her parents, is how hard she's actually trying. It's because she's saying all of the wrong things. I'm going to set you guys up. I'm going to buy you guys bling. I feel like if anything, that's where mom could have been like, pump the brakes. You're doing this for the wrong reasons.
Yes.
Let's remember why we love this. But that would have been, you still could have created that conflict and had the girl power message, because her mom, who is successful in her own right, is standing behind her. And it also could have been, I have money, I have connections, but I'm not going to use them on you. You're going to have to earn this for yourself. And again, that still would have created a conflict. I think that that's something that would very much get lost on the present generation, because now it's just all about nepotism.
Yeah, I think the other thing is, to the point you just made, like, we see Galleria writing these songs. We see her putting the work in. I think we needed to establish her as someone that was working really hard. The mom was not being completely supportive. She got a little bit of notoriety. She started to think who she was, and then it went to her head. The fact that she's already an egomaniac from the start, that's where this whole thing just is so sloppy, because I don't know who I'm rooting for. I don't know who I want to see successful, because at this point, it's like, I'm kind of rooting against all of you in this moment. The other thing is, there's some really sloppy dialogue here. I promise we're going to get deeper into this movie.
I know. We're barely out of the first couple of scenes.
When they introduced the idea of Jackal Johnson being this major successful record producer that won the talent show at her school,
What a name, by the way.
Yeah, Jackal Johnson.
What a name.
Way back in the 90s.
Ouch.
But then Galleria also has to tell her mother, well, he's not that old. Well, yeah, because the 90s were 4 years ago at the time of the release of this film. You're making it sound like, I mean, all right, if it's 1993, that's 10 years ago, you've established that these girls are high school freshmen, so I guess that makes them 15 years old, so to them, that's an entire lifetime. But it doesn't change the fact that you were saying way back. You, like now, in 2026, if you said, hey, way back in the 80s, it hurts us to hear that because we're children of the 80s, but that was 40 years ago. So you can sit there and say way back in the 80s. This is like me going, hey, do you remember way back in 2022?
I think this is just a joke that fell flat, because I think this was supposed to be sort of a wink and a nod at the parents, how no matter what, no matter how short of a time has passed, the kids are still going to take that dig to make you feel old.
Well, if that's the joke, it missed the mark. Now we get introduced to Chanel's home life, now that we've gotten away from Galleria's, and, like, I so see where Chanel gets it. Her mom, like, at first, I liked her mom at first. I'm like, oh, they're introducing her as, she's kind of a young mom, she's a hip mom, she's still gonna go out and enjoy some of the best years of her life, not in a way that's irresponsible. You know, it's not like you're gonna ditch your kid every moment to go hang out with some guy. Oh, wait, that's the exact thing that you do.
And to set that idea up, the Foley is doing the most in the beginning of this scene. It stood out to me like a sore thumb. I don't know if you caught this. Like the clicking of her heels on the tile, throwing the keys on the table. Everything is like not echoing, but they're very much trying to set up the idea that Chanel is coming home to an empty house. But she's not. Her mom is just in her room raiding her closet.
Yeah. I think that they tried to do something here, setting up mom as more of a gal pal. Like you said, they're lending each other outfits and clothes from their closets. And I guess this is also supposed to make us feel bad for Chanel because Chanel's taking backseat to the new boyfriend. but this feels like it was half-baked. It feels like you were trying to do something, and either because these characters are so dislikable or they're so poorly written, it just feels like you've got one step in and one step out.
Agreed, especially because they sort of dip their toe in the water later where mom wants to move to France with the new boyfriend. But that's not the biggest conflict. They're trying to create a parallel to Dorinda's home life and show, you know, what a good mother-daughter relationship. And I think a lot of that too is that Gilmore Girls is very popular at the time. So I think they're very much trying to set up a Rory and Lorelai thing here with, you know, the sharing clothes and all of that. But they're, you know, they try to bring it full circle later where Chanel gets upset because once she sees Dorinda's home life.
Yeah.
But she has her own issues with her mother. It's not like everything's perfect. And Chanel takes that for granted. She's already mad at her mom. It's just weird how they try to tie it up, but we'll get more into that later.
Yeah. Moving on to school here, we get introduced to Derek and Mackerel. You might as well call them Jay and Ice. But the difference is, eventually, Derek is going to become the love interest of Galleria. They establish that, though, in all of the girls are fawning all over him, even though he is literally not a nice person from the minute he comes on the screen. I think that's the other thing. Nobody other than Aqua and Doe, who get the least amount of screen time, one of which you completely forget even exists, because she has no purpose in the movie other than being the fourth Cheetah Girl. Everybody, from the minute they are introduced, is just a character that you're like, could you fall through a trapdoor and just go away?
Or in a hole. I would have rather everybody fall in a hole than Toto.
I know.
Any one of them. I mean, I get the purpose that he's serving here. I wish they would have written a little bit more to this and leaned into it. Again, this is a girl power movie. Galleria has tunnel vision for her goals. I think that's a great message to send to little girls, is don't get distracted by boys. Don't let them derail your plans. But that's not how they're writing it. They're writing it as she just doesn't like him because he's annoying. Because he touches her face and says, "You're still my boo." Don't touch me. Oh my God. Like, that was so cringe. I can't believe I just said that like a Gen Z or Zennial or whatever.
I don't know what they are.
In all seriousness.
Neither do they.
But anyway, yeah, again, this is just written for the kiss at the end, and there's so much more that they could have done with it. It's, as you said, another half-baked storyline.
So now we get the audition for the talent show. We get introduced to their music teacher, Drink a Champagne. What
a great drag name. What a great drag name. Oh my God.
I totally believe this woman had a one hit in the 70s in the disco era.
Yes.
I love that she's still clinging to it, but not in a way where she's putting the girls down. I mean, she is still encouraging them to do it the right way. And though this to me is where, you know, she starts like fleshing out all of the wonderful things that these girls bring to the table. You have the look. You have the voice. You have the... And she gets to Doe, and she goes, and Doe, you... And Doe interrupts and says, let me guess. And I'm paraphrasing, what you're going to say about me. Shrimpy and white. And I actually had to go back. I went, she didn't say that. And I had to rewind the video. And I went, no, she really said that. Here's the problem with this. She is in a diverse school. It's a diverse cast. Not just diverse in ethnicity, but as we're going to learn here, diverse in social class in terms of your money. right? And that obviously becomes a big thing for Doe, and she's trying to hide that. To me, that's the most interesting part about this.
Exactly.
Is that she is... listen, she's not Michelle Pfeiffer in Dangerous Minds. It's not like she's, a Caucasian girl that's trying to fit in a hip-hop group and people are picking on her for it. That's not what this is. This is a diverse and accepting school. The more interesting story to me is that you're accepted in the Cheetah Girls. That's not the problem. The problem is you feel the need to hide your social status from the Cheetah Girls. You're embarrassed that you're a foster kid. You're embarrassed that your mother didn't want you, as you later say. You're embarrassed that you live in a superintendent's office. You don't have the money to buy the outfits or to pay for the dance lessons. I have to go and sweep floors behind the scenes to get credit hours for this. This is the entire movie. This is the entire thing right here, is she's trying to hide this from them. But when she introduces this idea that I'm shrimpy and white, it comes out of nowhere. And it's jarring to hear, and it's jarring to see when you think about everybody else that you've already seen on screen.
Gosh, I have so many thoughts to respond with. Yeah, I'm glad that you bring this up now, because my thought the entire time both times watching this, is that Doe has the most interesting and developed storyline, and you bury it so much. And maybe that was very calculated because they didn't want a white girl to be the quote unquote star of this film and be the lead. However, there are so many lessons to be taken out of this. They really should have built around the storyline a lot more. I'm not surprised that they call it out as far as Doe's POV here. I'm just surprised they did it here. And this is where it feels, again, where it's the most developed, it still feels a little bit half-baked because we don't get a lot more of it. This is the only instance where, like, yes, she's hiding her home life. That's an entire separate issue. But the fact that she's so defensive and she comes at the teacher in this way, these are clearly like deep-rooted issues with her that she's so triggered by it. I wish we would have explored that dynamic within the girls a little bit more. And especially, again, it is a girl power movie. It would have been nice to see the other girls rally around her and be supportive and make sure that she didn't feel out of place with them. I appreciate what they were trying to do because this was written during the time of quote unquote, I don't see color. And I fully understand that that is a phrase and an idea that needs to be unlearned now. But at the time, that was the late 90s and early 2000s attempt at inclusivity. So the fact that this movie was progressive enough to acknowledge it in that way and then back out of it and not really do anything with it, because the foster care is an entirely separate issue.
Right.
You could have tied that all together, that Doe is being raised by Black parents that she was not born to, but like they never bring this full circle. They're just treating it as two separate entities, and it would have been really great to unpack it more and get in her head. And they just brought it up at the worst possible time because it gets buried amongst this mess of other issues in the scene. There is so much going on here. Drink a champagne. She's great. The comic relief is great. But then you've got two moms sneaking into this audition.
Yeah.
The one that doesn't support the career and the other one that's supposed to be the absentee mom. And now both of them are showing up to support. And you've got the introduction of Jackal on top of this. What I really wish that they had done was have the girls do the talent show almost like as a second act break. And let's say they win, and that's when they get the record offer, and then find out that it's not all that it's cracked up to be. And then your third act is the conflict with Galleria and getting the band back together and realizing that they need each other because they're at odds. I think introducing Jackal this early muddies everything up and makes the plot line so convoluted.
Well, the other thing that it does, and the movie is self-aware to the point where it calls itself on it, it makes the talent show useless.
Exactly.
The talent show does not matter anymore because they can get the exact thing that they're looking to win as a prize handed to them by Jackal Johnson. And it's the other Cheetah Girls that call out Galleria when Galleria, all she wanted was to get into the talent show to win it, and now she's like, well, we don't really need it. And they're upset with her. They're like, but we're doing this to be in the talent show. And she's like, right, so that we can get into a recording studio, which he's offering for us to do now. So it completely, eliminates the journey and the conflict that is, we have to perform at the talent show.
I truly think that they kept the talent show in play solely to get the rest of the main cast back out to the manhole later on. But it does sort of serve Galleria's character a little bit. It's just in ways that make her more unlikable because she's trying to push forward and skip steps. And then she puts down Ms. Champagne at the end.
Right. Later on.
Later on. Yeah, not at the end. But when she basically says we don't need the talent show.
Yeah.
She insults her entire career when all she's been trying to do is help them.
Well, and she's also going to go on to insult literally the other three girls. That doesn't happen right now, but it starts to establish that that's where her head is going. That's the entire character. And that's going to be the character arc, is that she had an ego, she needed to be humbled, and a lot of that starts to happen with all that happens with Jackal Johnson later. But what I like here is they give Dad some purpose, because Mom does not want them going to Jackal Johnson. She doesn't trust Jackal Johnson, and rightfully so.
Even though she knows exactly who he is. I love that she's done her homework. She's read up on him.
Yeah.
But then they negate all that, and she's like, and what was your name again? I think she's trying to do it as a put down, but it's like, if you just read all about him and know his entire bio and have committed it to memory, that didn't work. I'm sorry, go on.
No, but the point is, this is where Dad steps up and says, we've got to let her do this. We've got to let her learn on her own. We can't keep holding her back. I'm paraphrasing that, of course. But it gives Dad... It gives Dad something to do other than just be a background character that's there for comedic purpose. And it is ultimately the lesson that the girls need to learn. Specifically, it's the lesson that Galleria needs to learn. So you get a really interesting beat here, though, with Galleria and Chanel. When Galleria tells Chanel that her mom will allow them to go meet with Jackal Johnson, Chanel goes, hey, just one thing. When you introduced yourself as the founder of the Cheetah Girls, and that's not necessarily true. And Galleria's like, well, I just had to say something, and, I wrote the songs anyway. And Chanel sort of just takes it. I understand that you're starting to set up that Chanel is starting to pick up on some of these cues that the other girls have been picking up on and that other people in school are picking up on. But it almost comes off more like an abusive relationship. Like Chanel knows that she's being treated poorly, but she's still not going to say anything. She's just going to roll over and take it.
It was smart writing, though, because Galleria totally brushes it off as, oh, well, I just had to get in there and say something before my mom took over.
Right.
So that actually really worked. I want to circle back, though, to what's going on with Galleria and her parents, though, because I love what they set up with this college paradox. That Galleria's argument is, if I get this record deal, I'll be able to pay for college.
Right.
And she'll have the funds, but then her mom counters with, you won't have the time. And, again, Gallery is just pushing forward. It doesn't matter. It's not going to matter. I'll have the record deal. I'll have the money, blah, 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 blah. But you're right. The dad grounding this scene is really, really great. And again, more good dialogue when Galleria fires at her mom with, what good is eating your vegetables if you can't have dessert? And she goes, strong bones and teeth. Some of the writing, some of the cheetah chatter, I got to give it to them.
So now we're going to go meet with Jackal for the first time. The first official meeting. This is before he talks about doing a rebrand with the animal masks and all of that. And what you think is going to be just a little bit of drama because Galleria and her mother are late for the meeting despite their best efforts. No, that's not the only drama. The real drama comes from the fact that the only day that they can record their demo is the same day as the talent show.
Shocking.
Bum, bum, bum.
Conflict. Raising the stakes. Yeah, I have several issues with this scene. The first of which is getting into it. I don't buy for a second that this character would be late for her big opportunity like this.
And that her mother would be late for anything.
Exactly. Ever. Anything ever. And the whole stepping in dog doo-doo, it was just so unnecessary. Where it does work is that the other three are thriving before Galleria gets there. So I really like that dynamic, that they were perfectly fine to do it without her. And it also works because now Galleria is really starting to treat everyone like they're beneath her, especially Chanel. I mean, she literally helps her clean herself up. Galleria, she doesn't even wipe her own shoes.
Right.
Chanel does it for her. And it starts out as she's trying to calm her down and, look, I'll help you. This is not the end of the world. We're still going to get our chance. And she's talking her off the cliff. And then Galleria literally pats her on the head. It definitely works for the conflict between, this separation of Galleria putting herself above the rest of them. But it's just unnecessary conflict with the talent show. And I maintain that this storyline would have been more effective had they done the talent show first and then introduced the Jackal storyline. You really didn't need this overlap here. What I thought they were going to do was lean into Galleria's mother being overprotective, especially when it comes to the school schedule, because they've been pushing the narrative of, you need to go to college. You're not picking your music career over college. What I really thought was that Jackal was going to tell them he was going to pull them out of school.
Right.
And instead they wrote to the reality of it. And it was like, well, no, we don't have to do that. You can come here. We can rehearse for a couple of days after school, and that'll get you prepped and ready to record the demo on the weekend. Easy peasy. And then Galleria's mom goes through the contract, makes a few notes, which was really just played for comedy, that she's Xing out the contract with her quote unquote standard revisions, which was actually kind of funny. But that was the most that they did to it, or did with it, I should say, because you've been building to Galleria's mother naysaying everything this entire time. Meanwhile, she was supportive enough to take you to the audition, encouraged you to walk when you were late. This just doesn't add up as far as the dynamic between Galleria and her mother. And being that you did bother to introduce Jackal and have the overlapping storylines, that's what you should have pushed. And instead, they're pushing the narrative of Galleria thinking that she's the leader and she doesn't need anyone else, which they double down on in the next scene at school. And, she's regaling her classmates of this meeting with Jackal and, oh, we don't need the talent show. We're recording our demo instead, and we're going to make it big time. And sure, we'll do your little article for the school paper. They pushed it too far because she's officially unlikable here.
I mean, I think she was completely dislikable before this point, but yeah, any shred that she had left is officially gone. I mean, the only thing that this really does is it sets up the internal conflict within the Cheetah Girls, because now Doe and Aqua are starting to say to Chanel, you need to stand up to her, because she's starting to make decisions that we should all be included in, but she's not allowing us to be included because it's her way or the highway, and Chanel's intimidated. She does not want to stand up to her. That's really the drama and the conflict that they tried to build in here. And if you thought that there was anything about Galleria that was still appealing, it's out the window the minute that she starts to really rag on their music teacher. Because this is the scene where you have her and Drinka get into it, and she basically tells her, you're a has-been. You know how quick your career can be over. It's so harsh. It's so disrespectful.
It's almost the equivalent of her saying those who can't do teach.
Yes.
Like, it was really, really low. And then it gets even worse when she goes in on Doe's wardrobe. Because it's not even like she's trying to be nice.
No.
And we know that it's not in her character. She's not going to acknowledge we have to have a difficult conversation, but for the sake of the group, I need you to step it up. Please make sure that you're dressing like she was never going to do that and sugarcoat it, which I appreciate. That's not the character either. The one likable thing is not necessarily the attitude, because it's poor sometimes, but I do love the sass. That was a constant throughout. But this isn't sass that she's throwing at Doe. She's just being out and out mean to her. And I realize that this is all part of the delusions of grandeur that Galleria is having. And we're going to make the rift even bigger between the girls at this point. But you didn't have to go so big with it, because we're going to learn in 2 seconds the way that Doe internalizes all of this because of her home life situation. And it would have been just as effective to let that breathe and unpack it all without Galleria rubbing her nose in it. The other thing that doesn't work for this scene, and this is really minutia in comparison to everything else, this doesn't work with the timeline that Jackal laid out, because this is rehearsal for the talent show and it's after school. They should be with him after school.
Right. Yeah. The thing is, to sort of piggyback off of what you just said about Galleria and the delusions of grandeur before we move on to Doe, it works in High School Musical with Sharpay because she's so outrageous that they're doing it for comedic purpose.
Right.
This is supposed to be one of the leading ladies that you fall in love with. That's the problem. You can't do that with this character. I would have rather had them win the talent show. Do things in reverse, sort of as you mentioned. You have the talent show, you win the talent show. You get introduced to Jackal. You think, oh, his involvement is altruistic, but it turns out it's not, because he's going to have us lip sync, he's going to have us change our names, he's going to have us hide our identities, and we're all replaceable, and blah, blah, yada, yada. But you should have had Galleria be the humble girl that's just trying to make it. It's how you start Coyote Ugly. It's just the girl trying to make it, and she really cares, and she really loves to write songs, and then her head gets inflated, and she becomes dislikable, and that sets up the character arc later. She is what she is from the start until her character arc. It doesn't work because you're never afforded the opportunity to fall in love with this character.
I think the other thing is, much like Sharpay, she also comes from money, which we haven't hit on yet. But, you know, this is also where the biggest contrast is with Doe's character. We've talked about both Galleria and Chanel's mothers having big careers of their own. But with that also comes money. So in the case of Galleria here, in the case of Sharpay, it's very hard for them to be likable because they're already spoiled.
Right.
It's not like these are humbled kids like Doe trying to pull herself up by the bootstraps. And they don't want the career just for the fame and the money. They want the career because they need that next job and they have a talent and they can make money off of it. And that's exactly what Doe is trying to do here. She's working, not even getting paid. It's so that she can take the dance lessons.
Yeah.
And I realize that we have to showcase her talent, especially because they take the dig at her. You're not really a singer anyway. You're more of the dancer. We have to redeem her in some way and show how good she is and show that she belongs in the Cheetah Girls just as much as anyone else.
Right.
It just doesn't make sense for how they set up the scene saying, oh, you can help with auditions and then we'll give you the credit, because they were closing the dance studio to the public for the weekend. And she's like, but my hours, I need my hours. And they were like, all right, help with auditions. So she's dancing, but like in and out of people.
Yeah.
It's just kind of awkward. I understand that you have to separate her, but like if she's, you know, normally what happens here is that you have a choreographer teach a couple of pros the routine, and in turn, they're teaching it to the people that are auditioning. So they'll stand up in front of the room. That way the choreographer can watch everyone, but you still have someone that knows the steps that you can keep, sort of copying off of so you don't lose your way because you're learning it so fast. She's already going to be up at the front of the room doing it. She's already going to stand out. The way that she's like dodging and weaving in and out of people, it's very distracting. It's not very well shot. And it doesn't really showcase Sabrina Bryant's real talent because of the way that they're cutting it.
Yeah, it's all over the place. To me, this is better conflict because Doe has to take this opportunity to go with the gold medal crew, because it doesn't just put her in the background of the Cheetah Girls. It's also going to pay her, and she needs the money. We've already established that she isn't well off. The family's not well off. We haven't seen the family life just yet, but we know as the audience that she needs the cash. And now what she's going to have to do is pick between, do I go on tour with the Cheetah Girls or do I take the sure thing with the gold medal crew? This to me is this should have been the drama.
Bingo. And I wish that they had let that conversation with Galleria play out instead of you need to change your wardrobe.
Yes.
And that also that's how the family life got revealed.
Right.
Because the way that it happens, I mean, it works for the sisterhood because you see her really start to lean on Chanel. But Chanel has gone on a shopping spree, a revenge shopping spree, because she was supposed to go with her mom and her mom blew her off for the boyfriend again. So she overspends. And in an effort to, well, actually, this is very good writing. Instead of having to stand up to Galleria and tell her that Aqua and Doe aren't happy, she tries to smooth the whole situation over by buying clothes for Doe.
Yeah.
And then it's going to solve both things. All right, we can shut Galleria up. You have new clothes. Everybody's happy, and I don't have to say anything that's going to upset her. So she goes and finds, and they set all this up really nicely too, because somebody had offered Doe a ride home earlier on, and she's like, oh, I'll just get out here.
Yeah.
And she doesn't go into the building that she was dropped off at. She goes around the corner. So now Chanel tracks her down, and before the big reveal, we get Chanel's incredibly tone-deaf assessment of the situation, thinking that Doe is biracial. And she's like, oh, I knew you got that flavor from somewhere. And just completely ignores the room.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a great moment for Doe to finally have this breakdown, but it really makes Chanel look stupid. You didn't have to do all of this.
It just makes it very uncomfortable. And the other thing is, like, earlier on, Drink a Champagne calls out the fact that Galleria's biracial. We know that because we've seen both of her parents. So why Drinka had to refer to her as my biracial, I forget what she said, but it was, you're my biracial, or you're the biracial X, Y, and Z. When she's like...
version of me.
Yeah, exactly. When she's describing what each of the girls in the Cheetah Girls are. Why that line is in there, I don't quite understand, because, as I just said, we've seen both of her parents. We know what her home life is. Also, you know, you said it before, outdated as it is now, at the time, the idea was, I don't see color. You know, so the fact that Drinka said that at the time, and then almost made it like, oh, this is your personality. This is what, you know, it's by 2003, it's not like it's some taboo thing. So it was odd when she said it, that it was like a defining thing for her. But even odder is when Chanel says it here, because it's like, well, why is that a big deal if that's the situation with Doe? Because you've got the same situation with Galleria. So why is this why is this something that's defining somebody?
But again, why is every other character speaking to it,
right,
as opposed to the person that is walking in those shoes, where we should be getting that POV?
Yeah.
We should have heard from Doe the entire, and we do, but again, it comes out in the form of foster care. And that's what she feels ashamed about. It's not about how she might feel about fitting in with everyone else. It's just about her home life. And they should have, instead of letting Chanel rattle on and misread the situation, I don't even think that they were trying to play that for comedy.
Right.
Because it's not funny at all. They just should have let Doe have the moment and really let her breathe and get inside her head. Instead, it's, I'm in foster care. This isn't my real mom. She cries it out with Chanel. It's a beautiful moment. And then she goes, oh, by the way, there's something else. I have this other huge opportunity.
Right.
While this scene is a lovely and refreshing break from Galleria, I think it was much needed. That was literally my note. This is a nice break from her. This would have been much more effective if it was played out with all four girls present. And Doe brings this up. There's something I've been hiding from you.
Yeah.
This is what my situation is. And I have this other opportunity. And if we're not going to compete in the talent show and we're going to gamble it all on Jackal, I don't know if I can do that with you. I have to take the opportunity that is in front of me.
Yeah. I think that there was a missed opportunity there, because I think having Doe be in the foster system and her crying out, my mother didn't want me, you know, I'm sort of embarrassed by this, Galleria's gonna kick me out if she finds out, which continues to just build on Galleria as being a god-awful human being. That whole thing, to your point, is refreshing, it's new, and it's something you don't see coming. The whole time I'm thinking, oh, she lives in the super's office because they just don't have a lot of money, and she doesn't want to admit that they're not well off like the rest of them are. Because that's the thing. Most of the characters in this school, in this neighborhood, they're all fairly well off people.
Right, because otherwise it's Fame,
Yeah,
the musical.
right, exactly. Now, all of this builds to the girls going back to Jackal. They go without Galleria's mother. They perform a song. We're going to talk about the songs in a little bit here. They perform a song. He loves the song and immediately goes, but this is what marketing says we should do. So let's do this instead. And this is where you get the global get down, the entire rebrand thing.
I actually really love this scene because it's such a great commentary on the business versus creative. And it's such a satire of what happens when marketing thinks that they have this great idea and that they know better than the creative. Conversely, I love the end when the girls have to walk past the audition line and they see that there are so many other kids already lined up to take their place in case this doesn't go. However, that's the good part. This scene is just a bunch of contradictions after another as far as the story goes, because this is supposed to be the demo recording. So why is there an audition line, as I just said? I mean, I guess you could make the argument that marketing and Jackal are expecting them to fail and they need to have somebody waiting in the wings. But the whole thing was that this was supposed to be the Cheetah Girls' quote unquote big break. And Jackal's the producer. All he's doing is cutting the demo for the record company. So it doesn't really make sense that you're trying to form the group here and now when you're trying to sell a group that's already formed.
I think part of them having all of these other girls waiting is because I think he knew the Cheetah Girls were going to push back on it. And, I mean, he goes so far as to say, we can just replace Galleria. He wanted to send the message, we can replace literally all of you. Because look at how many girls are standing in this hallway that'll do the exact thing that you're not willing to do. We're going to get global get down one way or the other. Either it's you or it's not. I think that was more what he was trying to do. My bigger problem with this whole thing is that while it is a very truthful look at the music industry, because garbage sells nowadays, and has for a long time, by the way, music shouldn't come out of a computer. It should come out of instruments, but, you know, that's just my opinion of it. My bigger problem here is that you have this moment where, before they're in the meeting, Chanel tells Galleria what's going on with Doe. And Galleria goes, okay, well, you know what then? Whatever it is that happens, we're going to accept it because Doe needs this.
Yes.
Now, how much of that is Galleria needs it? She's hiding it as Doe needs it. Because Doe's going to get money one way or the other. Because if she doesn't take this with you,
she's going on tour.
She's going on tour. So she makes it about, we're going to do this for Doe. And then immediately goes, I'm not going to lip sync. I didn't write these songs. You're going to hide my face. And what happens is she has a meltdown. The other three girls are saying, well, but wait a minute, we're willing to do these things, at least for a little while. It's still us performing. So now we're going to completely throw away the whole let's do it for Doe thing, when the other girls are willing to do it. And instead, you make it about you again, but you try to do it in like a very weird, guilt-trippy sort of way.
Right.
And it's like, okay, well, then you guys do it. I'm out. And the girls don't even want to do that. They, to the point they're even like, well, we're just discussing it. We haven't made a decision yet. But Galleria has made the decision and off she goes. And she makes it about her by guilting the other girls.
Exactly.
It's... Why do we need... Like, she's already dead. Why are we continuing to beat a dead horse here?
That's it. And we keep repeating the same thing when it comes to Galleria and not letting the other storylines breathe, where there's much more natural conflict.
Right. Like Derek. Because here comes Derek again. The half-baked subplot Derek.
This is a girl power movie. We don't need a love interest. Plain and simple.
But apparently we do. Apparently, we need the hunky musician with long hair. Because that's what marketing says this movie needs.
I was just going to say it. Here we go. The creative versus the business once again at its finest. This is another great example of wasting time, forcing conflict that you don't actually need, and rushing through more natural conflict. Because now we have Chanel's breakdown with her mother. She gets busted for overspending on her mom's credit card, which, lady, what did you think was going to happen when you sent your teen out in Manhattan?
Yeah.
With your golden platinum card.
Yeah.
What a name that they made up. I loved that. That was hysterical. But Chanel has this big breakdown. And, you know, she's been very vocal this entire time about, I feel like you're spending so much time with your boyfriend and not with me. It's come through a series of snide remarks, but her mom gets it. She's not completely blind to it. And the tears come, and it's like, I feel like my dreams don't matter. And then it very quickly flips on itself to thank you for not abandoning me. And where that's coming from is obviously looking at Doe's situation. And she's very thankful that her mother did not put her into the foster care system or put her up for adoption. But you're saying my dreams don't matter and thank you for not abandoning me, when that's sort of what she's done. Even though she didn't do it as a baby, she has left you alone and hasn't really factored in your future when it comes to her relationship. So while I appreciate what they're trying to do here, it's the rushing. Because she immediately forgives her mother for everything that she's done just simply because she didn't abandon her as a baby. But it doesn't mean that her mom's treatment of her has been okay up to this point.
Yeah. You want to get to Toto in a hole?
I mean, while we're on things that don't make sense.
So, Galleria's walking Toto. She sees Global Get Down being marketed, and then gets mad about it and goes, they did it without me.
Like you told them
to do, even though it's not them. So they did the thing you told them to do, and then you got mad. That's just Galleria in a nutshell. Toto gets away because reasons and falls into an open hole because more reasons.
Here's one of the biggest inconsistencies of this movie. Love the name. Great winking and nod to Wizard of Oz. Love the name Toto. Toto has gone to bed on time, goes to bed when they're told, dances as Galleria is writing songs. Toto is one of the most well-trained dogs that I have ever seen. Yes, I am looking at you, Walt, you menace. I don't buy for a second that Toto wouldn't come back when called.
I also don't buy that Toto would have just ran off.
I also don't buy that if somebody falls into a manhole that they're going to survive.
I also don't buy that the police, the fire department, Con Edison, and a television crew would show up for it.
A nation was raptured by this story. I also don't buy that this situation is resolved with a bottle of baby oil.
There's so much about this that doesn't make
His
sense.
head is drooping. What does that even mean?
I don't know. I don't know. They can see him. They got a camera down there. They can see him. I mean, I don't have anything else to say about this because it's absurd enough in and of itself. There's nothing I can do that paints a worse picture.
Not how it's intercut with the white boy rapping?
Oh, yeah. Sonic Chaos. That's... I mean... 2003 Eminem's a thing...
I mean, Eminem is a huge thing.
But this guy doesn't resemble Eminem. He looks like he should be playing opposite Zac Efron in High School Musical a couple of years from now.
He looks like a surfer.
Yes.
That's the other... And then later he comes
Teen
out
Beach.
with the guitar. Yes. It's just... No, I have no problem with the white rapper. That's not what I'm going after. It's just inconsistent with the character. He tells Galleria what a great pianist she is. Then he pulls out the guitar. Like... That would have been like a big reveal is, whoa, this guy's into classical music or something like that. Something just to make him more interesting. But he's a waste. He's a total waste. What they were trying to set up this entire time is that they are so close to the school, they have to cut the power to save Toto, and it's going to ruin the talent show. The real irony in all of this is that at the New York premiere of the Cheetah Girls movie, you want to know what day that was?
Tell me that was the day of the New York City blackout.
It was the day of the New York City blackout.
So God was trying to protect us.
Yeah.
3 days, I think we were without that power. The whole grid went down.
It was wild. It was wild. What a time.
I remember standing in a restaurant with my parents, and they were just handing out flashlights to people because their concern was, if we don't get the power back, the food is gonna spoil. They still had the gas for the grills, and they still had, because a lot of the fryers had burners underneath too. They weren't electric. It was all gas. So it was basically like, hey, everybody come on in, and we're gonna cook all the food, bring cash, because the registers don't work. They made so much money that day. And it was basically empty it out. Oh, while you're here, drink the draft beers while they're still cold. And we all just stood there with flashlights. It was like indoor camping the day that it happened. I had more fun than they did at the Cheetah Girls premiere. That's for sure.
I remember we were out, not when it happened. I want to say we were driving back from my grandparents' house because we would have been in the car for about a half hour. So we didn't realize until we got home and nothing turned on. You couldn't get it, it's the summer. You couldn't get the air conditioner on. That was when we realized that it was out. But then obviously, like this happens once in a blue moon where they'll just cut your grid if they need to do work or whatever. So we were just sort of waiting for it to come back on. We had no idea, it wouldn't have occurred to us to turn on a battery operated radio and listen to the news because we're just thinking it's going to come back. And then after hours had gone by and you couldn't turn on the TV to figure out what was going on, then it's like, oh, we should maybe figure out a backup plan here.
It was so hot that day.
It was. It was like the middle of a heat wave.
Hot
my
that
God.
Day. Anyway.
Yeah. Probably more interesting than anything that happens in the last act of this film. I get it. We have to get the band back together literally and figuratively. We have to believe in the power of song because it's a musical. But I love it. You have to get the dog to respond to your voice. So instead of just calling to Toto, we're going to sing about it. And I'm sure Toto's not going to be distracted by these three other unfamiliar... All right, well, maybe two unfamiliar voices because Chanel has spent enough time in the house where Toto will respond to her voice. But he's not going to know Aqua's, who, by the way, overcame her fear of the subway to get to Galleria in her hour of need. Well, not Gallerita. She showed up for Toto.
For Toto. The germaphobe from Texas who loves her hot sauce.
Hey, it's what bonded her to Jackal. Yeah. Here's what I bump on more than anything else is that this is a girl power movie. We have to have the theme of your friends coming through for you and showing up for you and sisterhood. Great. Galleria did absolutely nothing to earn their forgiveness.
No!
She's the one who needed to humble herself and apologize and make it up to them to get the band back. All they did was show up for her in her time of need. And like, okay, she thanks them, sure. But there is nothing she has done to redeem herself where she deserves them to even show up. But like, okay, we'll look past that and be like, you know what? These girls did the right thing. They came through, especially because, you know, the entire world shows up for Toto.
Yeah.
So are you going to be the only three who don't? No. But nothing is earned here. Nothing.
Other than them having the opportunity to tell Jackal to go pound salt.
Right. And so we have to bring it back to the talent show.
Which they win even though they
Even
weren't
though they didn't
actually
perform.
there.
That's exactly what I'm saying. You still could have had that girl power moment of telling him off in any other capacity without having to bring the talent show back into play. It doesn't make sense. It's not fair to the rest of the school or the rest of the students who actually worked hard. Like, you know what? Sonic Chaos did deserve to win.
Yeah. At least they showed up.
But it would have been more effective because you bothered to shoot this impromptu music video news package, I guess, because all the cameras are, it's a multicam news shoot that they're able to cut between all these cameras. Like that is the moment where Jackal realizes that he messes up because he sees their talent, but like call her right after that. And then Galleria could have just shot him down without this, you know, song and dance with, we have to bring back this talent show storyline.
The talent show, which came right back online because the school had backup generators and amazingly had a cable box hooked up to a projector because on stage behind the performers, they see the broadcast of Toto in the Hole.
That's right. That's what gets them outside.
That's what gets them outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Want to talk about the songs? Do you want to talk about the music? Because in spite of the fact that this movie is got so many issues, the one thing that is redeeming about it, hand to God, is the music. The music is actually really good.
No, and I mean, I think that was all by design because this is where Disney is really trying to, instead of treating everything as a separate entity, they're pushing synergy here. So they wanted to make sure that they had some radio hits, and that's also, I think, a lot of why these songs were shot the way that they were shot, so they could just lift them out of the edit as isolated music videos.
Because they would do that on the Disney Channel, like in between commercial breaks as fillers.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So you're double dipping, you're saving on budget rather than having to shoot an entirely separate music video. It's one and the same, so you could still play it that way. But again, I said it before, this predates Lizzie McGuire and Hannah Montana. So this was really one of their earlier pushes to use what they've got and take the songs from the film and give them a second life on the radio. And in essence, just push the channel overall.
Right. All right. So the first song is Together We Can. It's this weird birthday party thing. It's at the very beginning of the movie. The song itself, it's a reasonably good first song. It feels like a 2003 pop song. To me, it just feels like a time capsule of what was popular at the time, at least what they were trying to make popular at the time. Yeah, it was a good first effort.
Yeah, I'll certainly give it that much. It's a catchy song, especially to bat lead off for this film. You know, and I said it earlier, it does really, the lyrics really set up the thesis of the film overall.
Yeah.
It's just very distracting with the stylistic choice that they made for the video. But if you isolate the song on its own, yeah, it's a bop.
Yeah, Cinderella is the second song. You know that this, in their minds, was the radio hit. This was what they wrote this song for. Quite honestly, I thought they sounded great. This sort of feels like Destiny's Child. Like, you think about, again, what was popular at the time. I think that's what they were trying to hone in on, and it is a very, very good song.
I think it was also really smart to have a song that was a little bit more mature, because we have to push the idea that these girls are so talented despite being freshmen. So it really worked in that regard.
Girl Power is the song that the girls sing when they go to meet with Jackal. First off, this sounds like Bye Bye Bye. Like, a lot like Bye Bye Bye.
And it looks like it too.
Well, because it's a straight music video and it's jarring. To the point where Jackal and his crew have the look on their face like, what are they doing? Who are they performing to right now? So it almost becomes a parody of itself.
All valid questions, though, because this song has not been rehearsed. At this point in the film, Galleria had literally just written it. She sings it to Chanel over the phone, hey, what do you think? And we have not seen a one rehearsal for it. It might have been what they were rehearsing for the talent show had they followed through with that, but they're not even rehearsing it for the demo with Jackal. And this is exactly what I was talking about before with, this was supposed to be the demo recording, not another audition, and yet they come in with a song.
Yeah.
It definitely muddies up the whole plot, but yes, I agree with you. I see exactly what they were trying to do here.
Come on. This is the song performed by Sonic Chaos at the talent show. Honestly, this feels like 80s Marky Mark and the Funky Bunch. That's what this feels like. It's what it sounds like.
But like not in a rip-offy way. More just in a time capsule way.
Yeah.
But I wish we had seen a little bit more. Instead of just the rap, I wish we had seen an instrument at this point other than spinning on the DJ booth.
Yeah. That's all Mackerel does. Just spinning on the booth while Derek does his thing.
Well, that's the thing. I feel like Mackerel was more of the highlight. And if you're pushing Derek as the leading, he needed to do something else.
Right. Cheetah Sisters. This song is just the slop fest. this of all, like, here's the thing: the music is good all over the place. This one just is. This literally is all over the place.
I gotta give them credit, though. I mean, these ladies are filming in Toronto in November. That had to be some kind of cold. And I like how I appreciate it was very smart how they baked it into the wardrobe. This was very typical of girl groups where they love to do it with the Spice Girls. TLC did it a whole bunch. Destiny's Child did it a whole bunch, where you took one sort of print and then it was styled differently on each of the girls, or it was a different color. So here you do it with the cheetah print. Everybody's got the cheetah headband, but like you needed that headband because it's freezing. And I'm sure these poor girls were layered under these outfits. Like a night shoot in Toronto that's going to be cold no matter what time of year it is.
Are we ready to talk about our cast?
Yes.
Starting with Raven Simone as Galleria. No shade thrown at Raven Simone, because she's been doing this longer than a lot of people have been alive. This character is insufferable. I think she did the best she could with it, But this is just a character that, like, I mean, if I'm being honest with you, I would have been fine if more or less all of them fell into the hole with Toto and became mole people. Like, that would have just been a great end to this movie.
Especially for Aqua. What an arc.
Oh, yeah.
If you can't beat him, join him.
But good Lord, Galleria is just an awful human being.
I mean, I think that just speaks to Raven-Symoné's talent, because clearly she understood the assignment. I think that it's a very poorly written character, but Raven's an incredible actress. The few redeeming qualities that Galleria has, like with the cheetah chatter, with all that fast talking, I totally buy. And nobody does a smirk like Raven-Symoné. I mean, this girl, like, this is where you know yourself being a child actress. She knows the angles of her face. She knows how to work it towards the camera. Absolutely no one can do a smirk like her. And I have thought that my entire life, even as a kid watching her. It should get stale. It should get old. It should get tired. And it never does, because she always deploys it perfectly.
Adrienne Bailon plays Chanel. This character could have been so much more. I think that they were onto something with her. Her having the conflict with her mom as sort of an A story, the B story being the conflict that she has with Galleria, but she's sort of intimidated by Galleria. I think that she knows that she's talented, but the fact is, without Galleria, she's not going to be anything, because Galleria is writing the songs. I just wish that they would have done a little bit more with her.
I agree. In a girl power movie, she should have had more agency. But again, that's another fault of the writing. And who knows, that could go all the way back to the book. We don't know. Or maybe that's just something that gets lost in translation, adapting the book to film. Otherwise, I think this was perfect casting. You know, 3LW had come onto the scene years earlier. They were the next coming of the girl group. So this was just tailor-made for her. And I love the trajectory of her career since. I mean, she got some notoriety besides what she was doing in the music industry, because God help her, she dated a Kardashian for a while. So she was on Keeping Up because she was dating Rob. And then from there, she goes on as a co-host of The Real for years. I think she even got an Emmy for that. And she's done so many talk shows since. And Disney has also continued to revive her and Aqua's characters throughout other DCOMs. So she's done insanely well for herself since. But she was really great in this. And it was also a great get for Disney because, like I said, 3LW is already established at this point. I feel like with most DCOMs, it's the other way around, where the kids, the child actors, the theater kids who all got their start on these DCOMs, it was their big break. And then they went on to, or at least, that's especially what Disney tried to do when it came to Hilary Duff and Miley Cyrus, because Disney is still kicking themselves over losing out on Britney Spears and Christina Aguilera, since they had them in the Mickey Mouse Club, didn't sign them to the studio contract afterwards, and then they went on to have these massive careers, and they lost out on all of it because they didn't sign them to Hollywood Records.
Right. You mentioned Aqua before. Keely Williams plays Aqua. Aqua's sort of just there. I think Aqua is such a spark plug of a character. I wanted her to be more involved. I think you needed her to be the muscle. They kind of started doing it, and then she just became the butt of the joke.
So here's what's really interesting to me. This was not supposed to be 3LW, the movie. Obviously, because 2 of the 3 members of the group were cast in it. Naturi Naughton, I believe is her last name. she was not even a blip on the radar for this movie. This role was actually supposed to go to Solange Knowles. They had already cast Raven, Adrian, and Solange, and were still looking for the fourth Cheetah. And Sabrina got it because obviously of her dancing, her dancing is what put her on the map. But then she got called back for the chemistry read with them. And at the time of the chemistry read, it was still with Solange. I'm wondering, because obviously Beyonce's Beyonce at this point, and Solange was on the rise for herself. I'm wondering if the part was not big enough, and that's why she abandoned it. Because if they were writing it for her, I think this role would have had a little bit more meat and potatoes, and I'm thinking that's why she left. It worked out. It worked out great for Keely. And I really like when they stopped making her the butt of the joke with the hot sauce. And we didn't even get to mention it in the scene. While they're waiting on Galleria when she's late, literally all Aqua and Doe are doing is giggling at Jackal's jokes the entire time. And it's not even motivated with like, oh, we have to make him think that we like him and trust him for the sake of getting this deal. Like, no, it's none of that. They didn't give these characters enough to do. So when she does get to step up, she's a total scene stealer. And I'm hoping that by the time we get to the second movie, they give her a lot more to do.
Sabrina Bryan plays Doe. This character is the most interesting character in the movie. She's got the most interesting backstory, sad backstory, but I think in a lot of ways relatable for a lot of people. I thought putting her in the foster care system was a risk that paid off, because you've seen these movies where kids are in the foster care system, like an Angels in the Outfield, and they get their happy ending. Does she get her happy ending? Yeah, kind of. But I think that it shines a light on a story, because she's not a child in the foster care system. I mean, she's an adolescent, but legally she's a child. She's an older kid in the system. And those tend to be the ones that linger the longest, and it usually has the bigger effect on them. Because the sad reality is, when people are adopting, they want a younger kid. A lot of them aren't taking older kids. That's the sad reality of the foster system. So I think that to take this character and to give her so much weight that she has to carry, but to give her so much, fire in her gut, she's such an intriguing character.
I agree. She is by far the most interesting character. It is by far the most interesting storyline out of any of them. And she's the only one that redeems herself. That not even that she needs to redeem herself. She is the only one that you want to root for. She's the underdog. She's got the most to lose here. You want to see her succeed. And instead, she kind of gives it up for the sake of the Cheetah Girls when Galleria doesn't deserve it. I mean, if that's what you want to stand on because she says, I am a cheetah, and if that's what makes you proud, then go for it. But none of these girls, Chanel to an extent, have given you a real reason to put all of your eggs in that basket. And I mean, they do sort of right to it when she was like, my supervisor took the tour, so I'm going to cover her. So like, They cover the financial aspect, sort of, but Galleria certainly doesn't deserve this. Yeah. And Doe deserves better.
Vincent Carrazza plays Jackal Johnson. Like you said.
What a name.
What a name.
What a character.
He reminds me of the villain in Good Burger. That's honestly what he is to me.
He, it grieves me to say this, he looks like literally every member of NSYNC. With the cultural appropriation, the frosted tips, the tracksuits, the sunglasses inside. This was an amalgamation of Justin, JC, Lance, Chris, and Joey. I think it was 1,000% intentional. But the smarmy producer, I mean, they hit the nail right on the head with that. Like, that's even for the time, like these artists were doing so many interviews and so much press, like you really heard about these producers a lot. Like you knew them by name. They were celebrities in and of themselves in the 90s.
Yeah.
But then you'd see them roll up looking like this. And that's the thing. They were all spoken about like they were the heroes, but looking like the villains.
Yeah.
So it was very accurate.
Lynn Whitfield plays Dorothea. You know what? I think that as a foil to Galleria, she works. I think that somewhere in there, she has her daughter's best interest at heart. But the character is so poorly written. You're talented. I'm proud of you. But you're not pursuing it. But I'm going to let you make your mistakes. But you're not going to do it. There's just too much inconsistency here.
Yeah, way too much contradiction. But inconsistent though it may be, I definitely prefer this to Clueless DCOM Parent.
Yeah, I agree. Final thoughts on the Cheetah Girls. I'll go ahead and let you go first.
I think this is going to be a long month for us. Here's the thing. I really appreciate what they tried to do here. There are a lot of really, really good bones here. But in typical DCOM fashion, there are a lot of half-baked ideas, and that's to be expected. But what's truly disappointing is that you have some storylines of real substance here, and you just blow through them. Not even for the sake of the fluffy music pieces. It's just that you choose to focus on the wrong things and not let the important messaging breathe. And that's where I really can't respect this movie. I don't hate it. It's not a total piece of garbage, even despite the third act, because there's a lot of things that they do well here. They just drop them off. And you had a chance to do something really great with this, and it just falls flat. I am hopeful that this will get better as we go, but they're DCOM sequels. So I can't even be cautiously optimistic. I think this is probably the best we're going to get as far as the Cheetah Girls.
Well, you begged for a New York movie through a lot of those Spider-Man viewings. Well, guess what? This is a New York movie. And there are moments where it feels really good, and there are moments where it feels like I'm having an out-of-body experience watching my own lobotomy. If Bratz dolls came to life, this would be their origin story. And the irony behind this entire thing is that marketing wrote a movie about fighting back against marketing. And that's all I have to say about that. We have to know. I'd love to know what you have to say about the Cheetah Girls. God have mercy on my soul. Please, you can shoot us a DM on all forms of social media at Monoreel Radio, or you can send us an email, monoreelradio@gmail.com. News of the week is coming up, but first a quick break.
One of the concepts that has always drawn me to Disney is the idea that storytelling goes hand in hand with travel. So besides my admiration for Walt as a film producer, studio head, and overall visionary, I continue to draw inspiration from him in another area. As a vacation planner, I've been working as a travel advisor since 2018, helping couples, families, and even solo travelers plan their dream vacations. So whether it's a Disney destination, cruise, relaxing beach getaway, or somewhere more adventurous, I love to help people experience new places that inspire curiosity and, most importantly, allow time to recharge and reconnect with those who mean most. My assistance as a travel advisor is complimentary, and I will take care of all the details so you can focus on the fun. It's vacation, so you shouldn't be stressed. I'm with you every step along the way, from booking to bon voyage. So if you're ready to take that trip, visit monoreelradio.com/travel. Fill out the contact form, and I'll be in touch to schedule a consultation so we can plan your perfect vacation.
Pod Meets World is coming to Disney Plus on August 24th. I know that you, of all people, are maybe the most excited about this news.
I really am. I know that they never intended this to be a video podcast. So they had been recording all of their, I think they record through Google Hangs, or it might be Zoom. They had all of the video for it, and then they started feeding it to YouTube a couple of seasons in when this really gained some traction, because I think out of all the 90s rewatch podcasts, and there are a lot of them, they are the most successful. They've surpassed 55 million downloads. And I think part of that is just because the camaraderie is really there, and they're just so good. As, you know, people that have background in radio, they're just really good talk radio.
Yeah.
And my hope was that once they got done with all 7 seasons of the Boy Meets World recap, that they would continue. So I'm super excited for this. I believe they're going to put the back catalog up because they have it. And I'm wondering if they're going to do either new segments, or I know that they had announced recently at one of their live shows that they're going to review Girl Meets World as well. But I'm wondering if they're going to do something specifically for the Disney Plus version, especially because they have Danielle Fishel now hosting so many podcasts. She hosted the American Idol podcast. She's doing a lot with Dancing with the Stars since she was on it. My only hope is that if my episode goes up, the mouse comes a-calling with a fatty paycheck for me.
Well, at the very least, you'd have to sign a release or a waiver.
I'm waiting to take your call tomorrow.
I am interested to see how many views it gets specifically. I am so interested to know. We'll never know. The Maitland Ward episode is going to be the one that people want to see. That's going to be the one that I think is going to have the highest amount of views.
So that's what I'm thinking, though, because they'd have to release every single person that they interviewed, and then they'd probably have to pay all of these other celebrities. I'm wondering if it's just going to be the recap episodes and not the interviews. I'm thinking it might just be the straight recap episodes, especially then if they edit them to roll the scenes through that they're talking about, so there's a visual to go with it.
Sure.
There might be a little bit more editing involved, but if that's the case, I don't. This seems sort of cash grabby to me on the Disney end of it, and if that's the case, they're not going to be paying out more talent.
Probably not.
Which sort of leads us into not so much our next topic, but Pod Meets World is not the only thing that will be coming to Disney Plus that is based off of other content, let's just say. But we feel that that is part of a bigger conversation for another time, where there's probably going to be more to the story coming at the D23 Expo next week. So we're going to save that conversation as part of our next Dockside chat, which will encompass all things D23 and this big Disney Plus news.
Thank you so much for joining us this and every week on Monoreel Radio. Monoreel Radio will always be free, but there are many ways that you can support the show. Please give us a rating wherever you listen to podcasts. Join the conversation on social media at Monoreel Radio on all major platforms. Share your favorite episodes with family and friends who may enjoy them. And of course, book your next trip with Jackie. Links to everything can be found at monoreelradio.com. We all get one story. Make yours a magical one.
On behalf of Monoreel Radio, we'd like to thank you for joining us. We'll see you at the movies, the stuff dreams are made of.